The merger never took, says Glenn Guyton, executive director of the Mennonite Church USA. He's referring to what created the Mennonite Church USA, which was formed in 2002. In that year, the Mennonite Church and the General Conference Mennonite Church merged together. The Lancaster Mennonite Conference, a large part of the Mennonite Church, joined provisionally and formally became a full member in 2006. At its formation, there were 120,000 members in the church, but today they claim only 62,000. What's happened in that time? Guyton goes on to say, the cultural roadblocks that existed in the 1990s are hanging on in 2020. I believe the world and the church are ready for change. A new culture that values Anabaptism over the current iteration of politicized evangelicalism is growing in the denomination. Only 9 years after becoming full members in the MCUSA, in 2015, the congregations of the Lancaster Mennonite Conference voted to withdraw, and in 2018 they formalized the split. The Lancaster Conference was the largest conference in the denomination, and when they left, they took 1/6 of the membership in the entire MCUSA with them. Also in 2015, two other conferences left. The Franklin Conference exited, later voting in 2017 to join the Lancaster Conference, and the North Central Conference left and then dissolved itself in 2017, and several of the churches joined up with the U.S. Conference of Mennonite Brethren Churches. Back in 2014, the Gulf States Conference held a vote to leave, which required a 2/3 majority. Only 60% voted to leave then, so the vote fell short. Following that vote in 2015, the majority of churches in the conference left the MCUSA altogether. In 2018, the Lancaster Mennonite Conference rebranded as LMC, a fellowship of Anabaptist churches. In 2018, the Southeast Mennonite Conference withdrew from the Mennonite Church USA, and shortly later, nearly all the member congregations joined LMC. The main reason for all these departures isn't difficult to guess. It's the same thing that's been splitting denominations for the last 2 decades: issues surrounding human sexuality. In 2014, a Denver congregation in the Mountain States Mennonite Conference of the MCUSA licensed a lesbian woman as clergy, and the conference didn't take any action against the congregation. Then, in 2015, the MCUSA passed a forbearance resolution which said in part, "We acknowledge that there is currently not consensus within Mennonite Churches USA on whether it is appropriate to bless Christians who are in same-sex covenanted unions. Because God has called us to seek peace and unity as together we discern and seek wisdom on these matters, we call on all those in Mennonite Church USA to offer grace, love, and forbearance toward conferences, congregations, and pastors in our body who, in different ways, seek to be faithful to our Lord Jesus Christ on matters related to same-sex covenanted unions." In the document proposing the resolution, it was stated, "The intended consequence of adopting this resolution is that churches of differing convictions about same-sex covenanted unions may remain together within Mennonite Church USA rather than feel they must separate or be excluded by others." In 2007, the Inclusive Mennonite Pastors Network was formed and continues to be active in the Mennonite Church USA. And in 2009, Pink Menno was founded, which says on their website, "MCUSA congregations are turning pink." This is a listing of churches who are willing to state publicly that they are welcoming to all, regardless of their sexual orientation and gender identity. In 2021, there are over 70 congregations listed on the Pink Menno website. So in 2021, there is a sizable movement within the MCUSA to allow gay marriage and ordination. I say allow since, according to the current MCUSA membership guidelines, marriage is between one man and one woman, and homosexual activity is sin, and pastors holding credentials in a conference of Mennonite Church USA may not perform a same-sex covenant ceremony. In January 2020, an MCUSA advisory group recommended on a 23-1 vote to retire the guidelines. They also made the following recommendations, among others: that any document or policy about LGBTQ people must actively include representatives of the LGBTQ community in its creation, and that MCUSA develop a process with BMC, Pink Menno, and Inclusive Mennonite pastors to enable truth-telling, recognition of harms, and reconciliation with LGBTQ people, their families, and others who have been harmed by the way LGBTQ people have been treated in the church. In September 2020, the executive board of the MCUSA processed the advisory group's report, and in April of this year voted unanimously to have the denomination's delegate assembly vote on the matter. A vote to retire the guidelines will be held in a delegate special assembly in May 2022, and based on the trend, it seems likely that the guidelines will in fact be rescinded. In 2017, a Mennonite Church USA congregation, Albuquerque Mennonite Church, called an openly LGBTQ lead pastor, one of the more public instances of this taking place in the denomination, and the church remains in the MCUSA to this day. Meanwhile, churches continue to leave. On May 14, 2021, Anabaptist World announced that the leadership of the South Central Conference of the Mennonite Church USA has proposed dissolving their conference. The conference will vote on that in late July of this year. Individual congregations are leaving each year to join LMC, or Evana Network, a new church network formed in 2015 that lists over 35 churches in 2021. Guyton said in his article, "The systems, structures, and cultural paradigms we started with in 2002 will not take us through the next 20 years. It is time to redesign those to facilitate the work of the next generation. I am proud to be part of MCUSA because I have hope that the next generation will take the brave steps necessary for us to be the church God has called us to be. If the decline in the MCUSA's numbers continue, the next generation may not have that big of a church to work with. In 20 years, the denomination has lost half of its membership, and it's yet to be seen how the upcoming decisions may lead to even more drastic exits." Here's what Guyton has to say about that. "As evangelicals leave Mennonite Church USA, we may be smaller. Still, we will be able to live into our distinct calling as Anabaptists, even beyond the cultural Mennonite identity." L. Keith Weaver, the moderator of the Lancaster Mennonite Conference at their split from the MCUSA, said at the time, "MCUSA will reset its goals and adjust to the loss of many conservative members. Big tents are coming down. New coalitions are emerging. As Mennonites reorganize into like-minded groups, it will be all the more important to reach across the fences."